How have you managed to do that, or have you always had a positive mindset of I can go and do anything, or have you battled with that over periods of time?
I had to prove the bullies wrong. That was my driver. And so to prove the bullies wrong, I needed to show them that I could be more successful than them. In business, you have people that respond to the carrot or the stick. So it's kind of like the encouragement they respond to, but when they get the stick, it knocks them down. And the other ones, it's like you give them encouragement and like, okay, but you give them a stick and they respond. To me, the carrot and the stick worked.
One of the benefits of Dubai as well is also the easiness to try and get around successful people, because there's so many of them close together. Do you think that's one of the things that's helped you coming here push your success in terms of from a networking aspect?
I hate networking. Like I really hate networking. If you say to me, Spence, I've got this guy I want you to meet. Okay, can you have a coffee with him? That's cool. Going into a room of strangers, not knowing what anybody wants, makes me feel really uncomfortable.
Welcome to another episode of the podcast. Today I've got the pleasure of a guest I've been looking forward to speaking to all month, who is Spencer Lodge. So Spencer has a plethora of experience in business, banking, sales. You've also got your own hugely successful podcast, and we've had some fascinating conversations before this even began, which we probably should have recorded. So today I want to really dive into your career and what's developed you to the point of where you are right now, so we can give as much value to the audience. The first thing I want to ask you is, what was your first experience coming into the business world? Because you mentioned like off camera that you struggled in terms of like basic things, in terms of like even like English and writing and like basics in school. How did you first transition out thinking I have shitty skills and actually want to go and be successful?
A good question. I'd like to say I had shitty skills, but I don't think I had any skills. I was shitty skills is a step up from where I was. I just didn't do very well at school, and many people don't. They don't connect with school, or they don't connect with the subject matter. And of course, there were some subjects I enjoyed more than others, but I just didn't get very far because my attention span was really short. I was also bullied a lot at school as well, so that compounded the fact that school wasn't a healthy environment for me to be in. I like skiing. That was one thing I really liked, and so becoming a ski instructor was kind of like a dream for me, and that's what I did.
Randomly, so am I.
Okay, cool. So I don't know what the exams are called nowadays, but we used to have something called BASI.
BASI,
Okay, so I did all my BASI exams, and then we had ASI, which is the artificial ski sloping instructor exams, and so I did those. Did 3 seasons as an instructor, and then Mum kicked me out of bed one day and said, "You got to get a proper job," and that's how that changed. And I then got a job in sales. That's quite simply what happened. I was selling cars for BMW, and I got fired after a month for having a bad attitude. And then the other job, there was one as an estate agent and one as an office equipment salesperson. And the estate agent required your own car. I didn't have one, but the office equipment gave you a Ford Escort. And so I took my Ford Escort, and I was happy with that. But I was trained professionally how to sell. They took selling very seriously. They saw it as a craft and a skill rather than a lot of people do. And they taught me how to sell. They taught me how to deal with rejection. They taught me how to be persistent. They taught me systems and processes. And it was relentless training from some very dedicated people that run that business. And after, I don't know, 18 months, I'd learned an awful lot, and I was ready to go and sell. I was a trainee until then, and I was ready to go and sell. And so it was B2B, selling office equipment, but selling office equipment was expensive kit back then. You were selling office equipment, photocopiers for upwards of £100,000. So all that kind of stuff back then in the city where I was working was profitable and commission driven, and it was fun as well. And there was lots of banter in the office, lots of guys, lots of energy, Friday night down the pub, and everyone having a good time. And it was just an environment that I felt very, very comfortable and safe in.
It's funny because I had a very similar start in terms of I was a ski instructor and then became an estate agent and learned those same skills of like sales and then like how processes work and how back in the business works. And actually I recorded a post on this earlier today about actually how I thought I'd failed at life at 21 because I didn't go to university. All my friends were coming out and getting these like quote unquote good jobs, and I was like, fuck it, I really fucked this up now, and I'm stuck doing this shitty job forever. But like what I didn't realize is that I was learning the hard skills in the trenches doing the thing rather than like the theory of reading doing the thing.
I think when you explain it like that, you're right. I wonder though if I'd have stayed in the skiing industry, whether I'd have evolved into other parts of that industry, whether that was hospitality, whether that was sales of ski hardware, that kind of stuff. Because even to this day, I'm still very interested in the subject.
Do you think you need to follow a career that necessarily follows your passions? Like you mentioned there, going into skiing, and then you obviously ended up into like finance and banking from there onwards. Do you think people should try and follow their passions more, or just go where success seems to pull them?
For me, it's not about that. It's finding something that you can do easier than other people can. So when you see other people doing it and it's a real challenge for them, and you can do it somewhat naturally, that means you've got an easier route to success in that space. And so for me, it's just like, find something that you can do, that you're good at, and build something around that. Focus on a career that's that. I mean, you take sales. Actually, learning how to sell and being good at sales meant I probably could have moved from a myriad of different industries and organizations to use that particular skill. So I wasn't stuck with one industry. But once I started to realize how financial services worked and the opportunities that existed there, and the fact that you were solving problems for people, add that to my kind of like natural ability that I developed over the years, it worked as a marriage in heaven, really, and I did well for myself.
One of the things you mentioned there, I'm going to pull out, is natural ability you developed. Do you think a lot of people sometimes don't believe in themselves enough to maybe even trying to develop their own skills?
The world is full of people telling themselves stories. That's all it is. People just tell themselves stories over and over and over again. They're fear-based stories, they're excuse-ridden stories that stop them being truly what they're able to be. And if only we could rewire people's brains to stop those stories and create some new ones, then you'd find a lot more successful people here on this planet and a lot less victims.
How have you managed to do that? Or have you always had a positive mindset of I can go and do anything? Or have you battled with that over periods of time?
In business, you have people that respond to the carrot or the stick, so it's kind of like the encouragement they respond to, but when they get the stick, it knocks them down. And the other ones, it's like you give them encouragement and they're like, okay, but you give them a stick and they respond. To me, the carrot and the stick worked. And I had to prove the bullies wrong. That was my driver. And so to prove the bullies wrong, I needed to show them that I could be more successful than them. And so that was what sat in the back of my mind every single day, and it was, I'll show you. And so if I was in an office with a guy who was my leader and he was the others are better than you, I'll show you. Okay, if it was well done, Spence, and encouraging me to do better, it was then to the bullies, I'm showing you. So there was this aspect to my life all the way through my early years. I'd argue up until I was in my 40s that every single day, I'll show you. Okay, and once I got to that space in my mind where I knew I was winning, okay, I then found, and this is for me, I found other nemesises to go for. So it was the person that was in the lead that I would go for. And I loved being the underdog, and I loved being in second place. That for me was a real driver.
I resonate with that massively because I had a lot of the same issues and challenges when I was younger in terms of wanting to prove a point to people. And I literally just read, I don't know if you read Patrick Bet-David's book, is Choose Your Enemies Wisely. I read that and it resonated with me so much. I was like, fuck, I need to pick bigger enemies because I've beaten all these people now. So I need who's bigger I can chase after, because I like chasing people, which I think probably why I used to like sports so much. It's like, it's competitive. And I think if you make business and life competitive, it gives you the drive to keep pushing.
There's a great example of this that I talk about quite a bit, about the Olympic Games and the 1500 meters. There was, when I was younger, there was Steve Cram, Sebastian Coe, and Steve Ovett, and these were the three best middle distance runners in the world. And I used to watch them in the Olympics or at track and field meets on the telly, and I'd watch them, and I'd watch how they would come round the last bend and never be in the lead. They'd always be in second place because the guy in front was looking back over his shoulder. Are they going? Are they going?
No, they're coming.
Not knowing when to sprint. But then the guy in second place was there watching. I'm going to get you. I'm going to get you. Going to get you. And then they accelerate and they would run off into win the Olympics or whatever it was. And that image in my mind was always the place that I felt I was best to be. I need to know who's ahead of me before I overtake them. I need to know who's ahead of me before I win. Because if I'm out in front, I'm not looking back. I've got my head down, but I don't know how quickly they're coming. And so when I look at that in business, my first year of being the top advisor in the industry, I was competing with a guy called Alex Prentice. And Alex was working in another country, and he would work 4 weeks on, 2 weeks off. And I would work. And every one of those 4 weeks on, he would drop these massive figures in, and I'd then slowly catch him up. And then again, he'd go back to work and drop these massive figures in, and it would deflate me. And I'd be like, oh man, how am I going to beat him? But one year, he was going to go on holiday on the 1st of December. And what used to happen is the figures, you would go blind on the 1st of December. So you didn't know who was on what. But I kept working up until the cut-off, which was the 20th of December, and I flew. This is the olden days, before we had all the internet stuff. I flew the business that had all been signed up and done, okay, to the head office in Malta of this company I worked for, and got the business processed. Still didn't know if I'd won, but I knew, okay, I couldn't have worked any harder, and I knew I was chasing something. And then it came to the celebration, the award ceremony, and usually it would be me in second or third place, and then the award, and in second place, Alex Prentice, and it was just like, no, and I exploded with joy and won the award. And then again, just making me feel special, 6 months earlier, the chairman of that company and I were in Mexico City doing some work, and he'd gone shopping with me into jewelry stores and stuff, and he's looking at watches, and so he tried this watch on, this gold watch, and he's like, yeah, asked the lady the price. He said, that's a bit expensive for me. He said, what do you think of it, Spence? I was just like, that's my dream watch, never in a million years would I ever expect that watch, I'd never be able to afford that. And as I went to get my award on the stage, he gave me a bag, and inside the bag was the watch. And it was just an incredibly special moment for me. And when my daughter turned 21, I gifted her that watch.
That's an awesome story. With the success you had then with that, how did you continue that momentum? Because one of the big things I'm a believer is when you start to see success, like trying to keep that going, whereas I think a lot of people sometimes take their foot off the gas and pull back. How did you keep that and let that compound going forwards? Just
like the Premier League, at the end of the season, the winners have won, and then there's a short break and it's zero again. For me in sales, it was the same. We would have the Christmas award ceremony around about the 23rd, 22nd of December, and I had a week to celebrate because 1st of January, it was all back down to zero again. So I had the momentum of wanting to prove it yet again and yet again. And when you win, then you're in an unfortunate place because you become the target. But I then decided that I was going to be unbeatable and nobody was going to outwork me, and I would work 18 hours a day, 6-7 days a week, and just destroy people to the point where they felt they couldn't compete. And that's what kept me going and motivated me. And I just love winning. Winning was way more important than any money will ever be.
Tim Grover talks a lot about using your dark side in like his books, Winning Relentless. Is that almost something you utilised in terms of some of that? Something to like try and push you to be so driven to beat everyone else?
We used to have these figures that would be sent to everyone in the company once a week. This spreadsheet was sent out, and it literally had business written, business process paid. It used to have the activity levels, all this, and I would literally spend hours looking at these figures and get myself into a frenzy about them, finding out where someone had an advantage over me, what they were doing, and it would just drive me to go faster and faster and harder just constantly. It was just like, you will not beat me. You will not beat me, because I'd always been at school. I was average, okay, I was a ski instructor, I was good, but I wasn't a brilliant skier. I wasn't Franz Klammer, I was a ski instructor. But so I was okay at lots of things, physics, sport wise, but I was never the best. But this gave me the opportunity to be the best, and that was something that I treasured. And you find it in you, and whether it's talking to yourself in the mirror, which I'm famous for doing, okay, or what did my boss used to say? He said, you have this incredible ability to self-bollock. He said, you will beat yourself up over and over again. He said, there was a time where for me to hit a goal, it was like £10,000 a week. It was like but the number didn't matter. But any less than that was abject failure. It was devastation. And he'd be like, Spence, you did 9,000. And I'm like, yeah, but I was supposed to do 10. I'm behind now. And it would ruin my weekend, like literally ruin my weekend. But if I was above the 10,000, it was just like, let's say it was 12 or 13, it was like, okay, well then that's the minimum now. So if I can do 12 or 13, I can't unlearn that. I've just proved to myself I can do that. So then from next week onwards, it's going to be 12 or 13. And it was just this constant, repetition. I was taught really well how to sell. I was taught financial services really well. I could see the difference that these products had in solving people's problems, and so I really believed in them. I believed there was a pension crisis. I believed that most people got to retirement without enough money, and I believed it was my duty to shake people to get them to do the right thing so that they protected themselves and their families' futures. And if I didn't, they weren't going to do it. So I wasn't going to take any nonsense from anyone, and I suppose that commitment to my craft, as much as my commitment to making sure that people were going to do the right thing or nothing at all with me, made me create that form of success.
The one thing I take from there you just said is like conviction, because like closing rate for people selling is going to be determination of like sales times conviction, sales skills times conviction, and like it takes a long time to get better at sales skills, but you can get very convicted and believe in yourself very quickly if you look at how good you are. Would you say that's one of the biggest things that really drove your success when you were selling, in terms of like you could literally, people could feel the energy coming through, like there's no way this isn't the best thing for you?
There was that, I'm sure, but how I measured that, I don't know. One thing that I'm really good at being is self-aware. So I understand what my strengths and weaknesses are, and because I understand what they are, I'm able then to stop confusing myself by thinking about lots of things. I needed just to focus on one thing. So I made, and I'll say I made it my bitch almost, referrals. It became literally everything to me. Everything apart from that became irrelevant. So I had my head down, focused. Do I want to cold call and spend a load of time trying to generate leads, or do I want to get referrals from everybody I meet? Well, I know that referrals are much better. How many referrals do I need to hit my objectives? And nobody in my industry got those types of referrals. It was 45 a week. It was just unheard of. People would get 2 or 3 a week. And I was like, well, 45 a week's 9 a day. 9 a day is 4.5 in the morning, 4.5 in the afternoon. That's 1 an hour. Okay. That's what I've got to do. And it just... A great example of this is my friend Maria Conceição, when she started to help the children from Bangladesh, that she Googled how to raise money for charity. What came up is climb Mount Everest. Now, this is a lady that's never set foot in a gym. And it said on Google, if you climb Mount Everest, you can raise money for charity. So I've been to Everest. It's huge. It's terrifying. It's daunting. But for her, it was an obstacle. And the way she's positioned it in her own brain is, well, if I got over the mountain, then I could help the girls. So you think about the positioning of that in her mind and how everybody else would look at it. And I suppose for all of us, we have these types of things. You know, my dad's a great engineer. Okay, if you go into my dad's barns at his house, there's Land Rovers in pieces, there's all this kind of stuff. It's immaculate, my dad's warehousing. Okay, like immaculate. You could go in there, you could eat your food off the floor, but you ain't coming out. And it's just a world I know nothing about, you know. My dad will talk about sprockets and screws and all kinds of aerodynamics and stuff. I'm not interested in it. I don't understand it. But he does, and he loves it, and it's really simple for him. He doesn't get why I don't get how suspension works on a car. He's just like, and I'm like, yeah. I remember going, my motorbike broke down once. And it broke down, and I said, Dad, I don't want my motorbike anymore. He said, where are you? I'm at a phone box, yeah. Where are you? And he comes out and meets me. And my dad comes to my motorbike with 2 things in his hand, just 2 things, okay? A spanner and a spark plug. Because my dad knew that's what the problem was going to be. And he opens up the spark plug, and inside it's black, you know, it was all whatever, they're coked together or whatever it is. And he's like, look at this, you idiot. And I'm like, where's that kept? And he's like, it's the spark plug. It starts, and he just like, you could just see him looking at me like I was a complete fool. And so when I look at that, I think everybody has those things in their lives where they're really, really just, it's just very simple to them. That was simple to me. Where that is simple to my dad, guess what my dad is? He's an engineer. It's just very simple to him.
The thing you said there was interesting, is you did a lot of self-talk in the mirror. What did you say to yourself?
I would talk to myself every day. So I have a process that I use where I clean my teeth, and then I stand there and I look into my pupils, deep into my pupils, and I talk to myself about the kind of day I'm going to have. Now, it's not under my breath, it's out loud. And I ask myself a question: what kind of day are we going to have? And the reason I do this, and I have this probably 2-minute conversation, is that I know how my subconscious works. And I know I need to overrule my subconscious behavior. I need to get my conscious behavior to be in charge. My subconscious wants me to lay on the sofa with a bag of Cheetos, with the remote control, watching the sports. That's what it wants me to do. And it's a risk management device. Your subconscious wants you just to chill and not take any risks. But you need to control that. Just like you need to with food, for example. You need, you know, if you're eating too much, you need to have that conversation with yourself and be really conscious of the fact that if you go and get something out of the fridge, it's not probably going to help, you know, if you grab the bag of chips, okay. And it's like they say to people, never ever go to the supermarket when you're hungry, because you're going to buy too much and you're going to scoff on the way back. But it's like having that that approach, my approach, and I'm not saying anybody should have this approach, it's just my approach, is I need to talk to myself and make myself highly aware of the situation I'm facing for the day, okay, and work hard to overcome any cravings that come from me sitting there going, oh, what about, and what if, and yeah, but.
I do, it's funny, we're very, very similar. I do something very similar. I have, on one side of my mirror, I have Charlie's principles as like the way I want to live my life, like probably like 8 bullet points, and the other one is like daily questions to ponder, which I literally just read every day and think like, what am I doing today? Why am I doing this? Like what did I do yesterday that was successful? Just to like go through my head to process information. Mm-hmm. I think too many people don't spend enough time actually thinking about what they're doing, they just do it.
Mm-hmm. I couldn't agree with you more. There's too many decisions that are being made without thought and planning, and people don't even know their decisions. That's the problem. They don't go, oh, I'm going to eat chips, or oh, I'm going to be lazy, or I'm going to make excuses. It's not how they think. But those things invariably happen. And they're, as you and I both know, they're choices.
What's your process when it comes to setting goals? Like, say, start 2024, what's your process in terms of, okay, well, this is the year, this is what I want to achieve professionally, personally. How do you personally map that out? How have you done that over the past?
Really, really simple. So I never think about 12 months. I always think about 90 days. I take that goal of 90 days and I break that down into 3 monthly goals. So that's that one goal divided by 3 gives me my monthly goal. I then divide it by 4, gives me my weekly goal. I then divide it by 5, gives me my daily goal. And then I work between the 5 days and the 1 week to work out the actions I need to take to get the desired outcome. I never worry about the outcome. I just worry about the actions that I need to take. And when you do this, whoever does this, whatever the goal is, it could be a BHAG, your big, hairy, audacious goal. What you realize is that when you break it down and you actually know the actions you need to take, it's actually not that much. A lot of people get overwhelmed with goals because they think there's so much to do and not enough hours in the day to do them. But when you actually break down the actions you need to take and realize you've got 10 or 12 hours a day to execute on that, then actually 10 or 12 hours seems like an awful long time to execute on 4 things you need to do every day. And to me, having that perspective and owning it in that way means it's very easy for me to measure if I've executed on it, okay, self-bollock, come back to the point if you haven't done it, okay, and push yourself to do it again the next day if you haven't. But it's never overwhelming when it's broken down like that. But I need to see the finish line, and that's why I never go past 90 days. 3 months is my max.
So you don't do any 12-month goals, just 90-day goals, and included in your businesses as well?
Everything I do is 90 days.
That's wild. That's a different perspective. I think
everyone has these 1, 3, 5 year goals. Look, most people in business fail. Most people in business are average. If their business survives, then they're lucky. Okay. Most people are employees. Most people are just enoughers. Most people are full of excuses, and yet they're now going down that I'm going to have a 1, 3, 5 year goal. Well, how about having a today goal? How about having a goal today that you can execute upon and demonstrate you can do it? Because the important thing here is belief. If you're a Muslim and you believe you're a Muslim, there's very little I can do to change your opinion. If you're a Christian and you believe you're a Christian, there's very little I can do. You believe it, it's true. So we need belief, okay? Belief that you can do something. So if you set yourself a goal for the day and you achieve it for the day, you can't undo that. It's like riding a bike. You can't unlearn riding a bike. Now, you and I might go and ski the moguls together next week in a ski resort, and I may not have skied for a while on the moguls. Will it be a bit sore on my knees? Yeah, but we know the technique, don't we? We can't unlearn it. We know what to do. We can bitch about the quality of the skis or whatever it may be, but we know. Once you achieve a goal, no matter how small it is, okay, you can do it again and again and again. You will believe you can do it, and when you believe, you will then have some confidence around it. And if you have confidence around it, who's to say you can't increase that by 5, 10 or 15%?
That's one of the ways I try and look, is like stacking wins, or when I have moments of self-doubt is looking at what I've achieved before. Even like in my office, I try and have like awards and stuff all over the walls. So like if you have moments of self-doubt, I look, if I've done all this stuff before, it's like you've got it, you just need to see it through. What would you say you've done over the years in terms of your career when things maybe haven't gone the way you've wanted, or you've struggled in terms of business, to come out of that rut or to keep going?
Well, there was a period in my life where things went wrong in 2012. I became a maverick, a renegade, whatever it may be you want to call me, and parted ways with the company that I built. And that took me into a dark place because I'd been almost institutionalized into a way of thinking, believing, behaving, actioning, to go to a place right then when I was literally on my own. And it demonstrated to me something really important as I look back, and that's the difference between being an entrepreneur and an intrapreneur. An intrapreneur is not a bad thing to be, but it's wildly different from being an entrepreneur. An intrapreneur, you have an infrastructure. And you could be a network marketer. You can work for aloe vera this or Herbalife that, juice this, juice that. You have a product, you have a corporation, you have product supply, you have sales strategies, sales tracks, social media training, blah, 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 all this kind of stuff. Yeah, you're still going to go and find the clients. You still got to build your downline. But you have this all in place. You're not an entrepreneur, you're an intrapreneur. When you become an entrepreneur, it's all on you. And what that taught me when I started to become an entrepreneur at the beginning of 2013 was that I knew very little about most things in business. And I was either going to have to learn those things or find really good people to help me with them.
And would you say that's where your skill set was just very deep on 1-2 things rather than being like broad?
Rubbish at most things. And I know how to find good people, and I know how to connect with them in a way that makes them want to work with me. I know how to incentivize them. I know how to bond with them. I know how to demonstrate my commitment to caring about them. Danielle, my business partner, who's the brainchild of all of our businesses, has been with me for 19 years. She joined me as a 19-year-old kid. She's 38 now. And we have worked together closely. She was just a 19-year-old employee of mine all those years ago. And in the last 10 years, we've worked together. In the last, whatever it is, years, 8 or 9 years or 7 years, she's the CEO of the company. And her creativity and her desire to learn, she's one of these people that's committed to learn. If she gets stressed, she learns. If I get stressed, I find someone to find the answers. She'll deep dive into everything. If I said to her, we're going to do a podcast today with this guy called Charlie, okay, she'll know everything about you. She'll know how long you're married for. She'll know your ex-wife's name. She'll know everything. She'll know how many people you slept with. Everything. She'll know everything about your business. She'll know everything because she will go into that much detail. And that's a strength that she has that I don't. She will research stuff and come up with ideas that I couldn't have even thought about. And so then you take Sarah, my assistant. She's been with me for 16 or 17 years. We have this ability to bond with people and build strong relationships going forward, and that's something that I'm able to do. Don't take away from the fact that there's some people that my ambition and hope for them and their goals has blown their mind so much that it's overwhelmed them and they've had to leave as well.
One of the biggest mistakes, the biggest problems in business obviously is hiring the wrong people. What does your process look like in terms of actually finding the right people and then developing them to being what you want them to be?
It's interesting you say that because my approach is always to give people a chance. Okay, I want to give people a chance. They say hire slowly, fire quickly, but I don't necessarily agree with that. I don't believe that you know what people are made of from interviews. I don't think you always know what people are made of from their previous employer's report card either. I think a lot of the time you have to suss people out yourself. And at 53 years old, I've had as many people that I've bet my life were going to be brilliant in one hand that have been awful, as much as I've had people that I've gone, that have turned out to be amazing. What Danielle is way too detail focused to sometimes give people a chance, and so sometimes we see that differently, but her caution means that we don't make many bad hires. If it was me solely in charge of recruiting, then I'd give way more people a chance, and if they didn't work out very quickly, I know in 4 weeks I know if they fit the culture.
How do you balance out then with what you just said in terms of what you delegate to your team members and then you take on yourself?
I delegate everything. Every single part of the business is delegated. Danielle has a team, the other businesses I own, the CEOs all have a team of people. We have weekly, or Danielle and I will talk to each other every day. My other CEOs and other businesses that I invest in typically speak to them once a week.
And how do you structure that over a week for yourself? Do you put most of the meetings, say, running those businesses into one day, or do you spread it out during the week? Every morning?
Yeah.
And in terms of you running your day, one of the things I always laugh when I see it, because it's impressive, is your fanatical drive to the gym at like silly o'clock in the morning, which I think always makes me laugh. Is that something you've always done in terms of getting up early and making the most of everything, or is that something again you've had to push yourself to go and do, or like a skill to learn?
When I was first working in London in office equipment, I was starting work at 6:15 in the morning, so I was up at 4:30 then. So all the way from that part of my life, I've been an early riser. For many years, I started work at 7:15 or 7:30 latest, which meant, when do you go to the gym? You go at 5, because you come out of the gym, you shower and everything else. It's not like you can go at 6 o'clock like most people. So it's just a routine, a system that works for me. And I find that, again, most people get up after the snooze has gone 3 or 4 times. You know, my alarm goes off, I jump out of bed. I'm very lucky to be able to get and do that. I know some people watch that video every morning and go, wanker. You know, of course I know that. And I know that people are like, I hate you. But also for the whatever the percentage is that it gets them out of bed, for whatever that percentage is, it gives them a kick up the bum. That percentage is the percentage I'm talking to. For everybody else, just move on.
How important do you think managing your health and energy is in terms of you being successful with what you do? Because obviously you're performing at a very high level and have done, you mentioned before, you were flying like 100 flights a year. How important do you think it is also to manage to balance out like energy and recovery to not...
It's critical for me to exercise every day. It literally is a game changer. Yesterday I hurt myself at the gym and I couldn't train this morning. And I had to go to hospital this morning, and I felt driving to hospital less. I felt weaker. I felt wearier, even though I actually got an extra hour's sleep. But I need it. I need it for a myriad of reasons. My mental health, my conditioning, I need to interact with people early in the morning as well. I need the banter. There's 4 of us that train together. I need the banter. I need the competition. Because I'm awake and I'm at my best first thing in the day. You know, I don't want to do podcast interviews at 8 o'clock at night for sure, because you won't get the best of me.
How do you structure your success in business around a personal life? You mentioned obviously you're a father, you're married. How do you, and you seem to travel a lot as well. Like you mentioned, I saw you going to Uzbekistan. You've been skiing here, there, and everywhere. How do you manage that into everything else? Just a lot of forward planning and just structure.
So my eldest lives here in Dubai. My youngest is in the UK. She's 21, so I make sure that I get back and see her once a month, once every 5 weeks, if she's free. Generally shopping is a way of persuading her, but apart from that, everything else, my diary sometimes on a Monday morning looks empty, but by Monday lunchtime is full up. And I'm okay with that, you know. It's just that I have a structure on my diary. So generally I'll say 10, 12, 2, 4, 6. They're my meeting slots. 10 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 6. Why? Because generally most meetings won't last more than an hour and a half, and then I've got half an hour to get to the next one. So I try and space them out so I've got time just to decompress between meetings. In terms of my private life, my wife fully respects the fact that I work. She's like, work as much as you want. You know, she's fiercely independent herself, and so I don't have that nagging wife saying to me, why have you not come home from work? Where are you? She's like, you do you and I'll do me.
Do you think that for entrepreneurs, particularly when they're younger, they are better off being single to be successful or better off in a relationship?
I don't think any man should be allowed to be married until he's 35. I think it should be against the law, because I don't think any man knows what he is, who he is. He doesn't understand enough, and I don't think he understands relationships and commitment in enough detail. Now, there'll be some people listening go, well, I got married at 21 and it's worked for me. I get it. I understand it. This is my opinion. Most guys that I know that got married young, like I did at 26, I didn't know anything about anything, you know, and there I am at 30 years old getting divorced. I just think that if you're going to be focused on something, the last thing you need is to have someone chewing your ear off about something else. Now, it doesn't mean you can't be in a long-term relationship, but I think one of the biggest mistakes entrepreneurs make is being in the wrong relationship. And it's like so many people are in the wrong relationship. They live separate lives, or they haven't got a supportive partner. Where that partner's like, how do I help him be a more successful entrepreneur? That's one thing a great partner would ask. My man's going out there, he's taken on the world, he wants to be somebody, he wants to achieve something. I'm proud of him for that. How do I facilitate that? How do I make that better? And I don't mean how do I make it better by putting food on the plate and all that. No, I mean how can I support him? Because most people that choose a partner choose someone who's relatively intelligent. What can that partner do? Now, maybe that partner is a great networker, maybe great at introductions, maybe that partner's great at building their own career themselves, so they come back at the dinner table every night and they talk about their careers and their working day. But you need someone who is really, really good. And a lot of people, men in particular, are choosing partners based upon how they look rather than what they're able to deliver. And I'm 53, I promise you, okay, you can have the best looking woman in the world. They get old. All right, you need the best partner in the world. You need a best friend, someone that supports you, someone that's got your back. Okay, someone that allows you to go and be the best version of yourself. Okay, and encourages all of that. And if that happens, then you get awesome relationships.
I can agree with that more. I think, as you said, I'm a similar story in terms of that type. I got married at 27, 28, divorced at 32, because I got married too young and I didn't know who I was at 27, 28.
I know.
Whereas and probably only starting to figure it out now, coming into my mid 30s, where I think
when men's ego starts to wane, that's when they should start to get married. Okay, they should never get married when they've got an outrageous ego.
When did your ego wane?
45.
Why so late?
Maybe 42, but definitely in my 40s. Because I'd been so successful for so long, I was so unbeatable, and I had this kind of like worship mentality around me of people thinking my shit didn't stink. I fed into that. And when that all stopped, and then I started to realise who I really was. And I look at that as being very dark, but I look back now and it was dark, but it taught me so much about myself.
Was that the 2012 phase you mean?
Yeah, and I wouldn't want to be the person that I was then anymore. I don't think that person was very nice. Someone actually wrote something on social media yesterday about meeting me in the 90s in Buenos Aires. Looking down my nose at people, talking down to them, speaking to them like shit, and this is what this person wrote. And at the bottom it was like, fuck you, Spencer Lodge. And I hadn't seen a negative comment for a long, long time, but I thought, and I didn't recognise this person, but the fact that I had that impact on someone in the 90s and they still remember makes me feel really, disappointed in myself.
How, for anyone listening to this, do you think you can identify if that's a problem or a trap you're maybe coming into? Because I see that, not in particular, but with some guys in Dubai who start to get pulled into that trap, because I think it can lure people into a certain perspective. How would you say anyone can try and self-identify that, and maybe how you pulled yourself out of that?
If you've got a really expensive car on HP, you're an idiot. Okay, that's the first thing. If you think you are amazing and you treat girls like shit, you're an idiot. Okay, if you're focused only on money, okay, and you use that money just for self-gratification, then I'd argue you've got lots to learn. The best way for you to get a real understanding of who you are, okay, and real perspective on life, and I believe everyone should have to do this again by law. So men aren't allowed to marry young, but everybody should volunteer once a month for half a day. That could be a Sunday morning, doesn't matter what day of the week it is. Go and volunteer. It will teach you to understand gratitude. Okay, and gratitude is critical for us to be humble. We've got to focus on being grateful for what we have. And if you've got the cars, the houses, the yachts, whatever it may be, how grateful are you? And what difference do you make to others that's positive should be a really good measurement on what kind of a human being you are.
For anyone who's listening to this in Dubai, where can you do that?
There's volunteeruae.com. Okay. There's websites you can go to. You can register as a volunteer, and you can volunteer every weekend. And if you're into animals, you can do that. If you're into people, you can do people. Everybody can volunteer. There's places for us to go and volunteer every single weekend. And if it's not that, what's the local charity that you support? The Sparkle Foundation or whatever it may be. Canine Friends. What do you support? Go down there and say to them, how can I help you? What can I do to be valuable? Go and work in the thrift shop, okay, in the Golden Mile. Go and offer to go and work in there for half a day a month or half a day a week or whatever it is you've got time for, and watch people that have got no money buying second-hand stuff. Okay, it will humble you, and it will make you realise how lucky you are, and it will also make you become a real human being again, because you'll get people in there don't care about your blooming Lamborghini this and your blooming Rolex that. They just care about you, and you end up caring about them, and that for me is really special.
100% agree with that. One of the things you mentioned there is people buying supercars on finance and all that type of crap. What would you suggest people do with their money when they start to create wealth? Where should they put it? What should they invest it? What should they do?
Good question, and there's many different things you can do. Now, my daughter wants to build a property portfolio. That's her thing. I believe you should take 50% of everything you earn, okay, and invest it. Like 50% of it, and plan it out. So make sure your retirement plan. Now you can say, I'm not going to retire at 65, I'm going to retire at 50. Okay, great. So plan it for 50. If you have kids, you're going to need to pay for their education in a university. I've just had 2 kids come through uni. It's not cheap. All right. Allocate the money, plan it out. Then make sure, okay, you understand your goals and your ambitions in life and what you want to achieve. And it's different for everyone. And then go and learn. Don't just sit there and wait for somebody to tell you to invest in Nvidia stock or go and buy the latest crypto blooming this or the crypto that. Learn. If you're going to put your money into something and you have no idea what it is, then all fool you if it goes wrong. Learn about the stock market, learn about how cryptocurrencies work, learn about, if property is interesting to you, how it really works. You know, people go, I bought a property, I paid 100,000 for it, it's worth 150, now I've made 50 grand. No, you didn't. You paid interest for the last 2 years on that money. So let's just take that into the equation. What about your stamp duty? What about this and that and that and that? Transfer fees. Add this all up, understand it, really learn it. When my daughter Taylor said she wanted to build a property portfolio, I said, okay, good luck. She's like, yeah, but will you help me? I said, not until you learn about it. And she spent last year, for 6 months, she spent £20,000 of her own savings on residential courses in the UK to learn about it. I take my hat off to someone that does that. It means they're dedicated and they really do want to learn. So for anyone that starts to make money, remember, it can go very quickly as well. If you start spending money on depreciating assets, you're foolish. If you think a Lamborghini Urus, okay, or whatever it is that a lot of people have, makes you cool, understand that most girls think that your penis isn't very big when you have one. So it's a double-edged sword that goes with it. Secure yourself, secure your family. Take time to give to areas that you believe you can make a difference. That's time, sometimes money, okay? And you'll feel good about yourself. But you must bulletproof yourself first. Everything else comes second. Bulletproof yourself first. Put yourself in a position where you've got more money than you know what to do with. When you're in that position, then maybe you can think about things differently.
Agreed. What's your opinion on people investing back into themselves in terms of learning skills, mentorship, or like advice and guidance? So like they want to go and set up a certain career. For me, I've spent maybe $250,000 on that last few years, and that's been the one thing that's changed my life, because I've learned skills quicker than anyone else, which has allowed me to get ahead of my market, because I know things other people don't, which is like create the knowledge gap.
You just hit the nail on the head. The truth is, who's the biggest investment you should make, and that's in you. Get your skills to where they need to be. Everyone should have a mentor. I think accountability is really important. You know, I have a personal trainer that I've worked with now for a number of years. If he's not at the gym, I won't show up. Even though my intention is to, but I don't. Now, luckily, he's there every day. He holds me accountable. I have a nutritionist called Mary. She holds me accountable. Now, she kicks my ass and bullies me and stuff, and is in charge of the food that I eat. But she holds me accountable. I need accountability, and a mentor will hold you accountable as well. And so, getting a mentor or a coach to work with. And again, Mary said to me recently. She said, Spence, you know, you've done so much for me and helped me with my business and stuff. I want to do it for free for you. I'm like, you can't do it for free for me. She's like, why not? I said, because if you do it for free, you're doing it as a favour. I have to pay you, Mary. She goes, well, I'll do it at a discount. I said, no, I have to pay you the rate, Mary, because that exchange of money means I also hold you to account as well. And so we need that to happen. And so, but Spence, you've been so kind to me, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, it's not working like this, hun. This is where we're going to do it, all right? I think a lot of people want something for nothing. A lot of people want free advice. A lot of people want free coaching, or they want discount, or they can't afford it. It's like, it's not about what you can't afford. If you're sitting renting a property that's more expensive than you should be living in, or you're driving around with finance payments that you shouldn't really have on your car, and you're spending your money on booze or swag at the weekend, then you really need to have a look in the mirror. Okay, but what does it say about you? Because if you haven't got money to invest in your future growth and development, then you have no future. That's as I see it.
I completely agree. And I see this constantly, particularly people in the fitness industry who are renting supercars, doing all types of crap, but they don't have the money to then go and actually focus on developing themselves and skills that are going to get them out of like the rat race and the problem they're stuck in. And it's almost like Pandora's box they can never open and get out of, because they're like trapping themselves with this giant anaconda of like a lifestyle around their neck.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree with you. And if you're exposed to them, I'm exposed to them. But remember, most people are what I call just enoughers. Society creates just enoughers. And there'll be people that are listening to this right now for education and for value, but they're doing nothing. They're just enoughers. And for those people that are just enoughers, I want you to remember what you're going to be remembered for. because most of you won't be remembered for anything. There'll be a few people at your funeral saying he was a nice guy, he was a nice dad. But I want to be remembered for making a difference. I want to be remembered for doing something positive in the world. And I can't do those things without being taught and guided and coached how to do them. And so you really have to put some time into your personal development and take it really seriously, whether that's a comparison to physical training, whether it's a comparison to food training or anything else. Take it seriously, be committed, okay, because the only winner is you.
How do you find your own mentors in a professional aspect now when you're at a higher level? Because that's one of the things I've found more challenging. The more skills I've had, it's more difficult to find the person who has the next thing I need, who has that next piece of the
There's
jigsaw.
less people as you go up the pyramid, yeah? Go to Monaco for a weekend, okay? Then you spend a weekend in Monaco. You'll never be the richest person in Monaco. You'll never be the most successful person in Monaco. But also, look at the people who you think wouldn't necessarily mentor. Look at someone who you really admire, okay? Someone who's really up there, that you're like, he's at the pinnacle of my industry. Okay, I don't know who those people are, but whoever they are, and that never mentor, they're like faces of the industry, okay? And I guarantee you, if you write to them and introduce yourself to them and tell you what you've done and what you want to achieve, if you approach 10 of them, there will be a couple that respond saying, what do you need? Because they will see themselves in you. Just like you do with your clients, you're like, I can see this guy's going to be great. I was in once, yeah? That's exactly what they see. When people ask me for help, a lot of the time, if I see myself in them, then I'm desperate to try and find some time to help them.
That's some very, very good advice.
It's not hard.
No.
And you'll be surprised who says yes.
Yeah.
Someone that you think would be out of touch. But then that will elevate your business further, because then you will say, my mentor is Arnold Schwarzenegger, whoever it may be, yeah? Oh, so your mentor's Arnold Schwarzenegger? Yeah, that's why I am where I am. Well, no, if he's getting coached by Arnie, then I want to work with him, or whoever that person may be.
Yeah, I think one of the benefits of Dubai as well is also the easiness to try and get around successful people, because there's so many of them close together. Do you think that's one of the things that's helped you coming here push your success in terms of from a networking aspect?
I hate networking. Like I really hate networking. If you say to me, Spence, I've got this guy I want you to meet. Okay, can you have a coffee with him? That's cool. Going into a room of strangers, not knowing what anybody wants, makes me feel really uncomfortable. So I really have to think long and hard, because I don't know who's in the room. Okay, I don't know if it's a billionaire, a millionaire, or a nothing. Okay, I don't know, and so that means, is this like cold calling?
Yeah, 100%.
You know, is this like, who am I going to meet? Am I going to meet a kitchen salesman, or am I going to meet, you know, the guy that owns the kitchen company? You know, and so that's always a challenge in networking. There's no doubt that networking for many people is really effective, but I think networking is different to prospecting. And a lot of people go networking to prospect, whereas I believe you should go networking to try and work out how you can build your community and how you can bring value to those people before you think about what you can sell them. And when you go to many networking events here, someone's got their business card, they're shoving it in your face, and they want to try and flog you something. And that's not to me networking. Being parts of clubs and associations, I think, is where the value is. So whether you're a member of the Capital Club, whether you're a member of the Arts Club, whether you're a member of Rotary or something, a community that get together regularly to help and support each other is what I believe is effective networking.
I completely agree. In terms of, as your career has developed probably the last 10, 15 years with social media coming, how do you think that's changed, and how are you utilising that now continuing with your growth? Like, you have your own podcast that's very successful. What's your strategy with that?
I have no idea why everyone doesn't have a podcast. It's lost on me. A podcast is such a great way to meet people. You think about it. Let's say I want to do business with 10 people, okay? But I don't know how to get in front of them. I can cold call them. I can send them an email. I might get rejection. I might not get, anything. How do I get those people? Well, if I invite all of those 10 on a podcast and I spend an hour and a half getting to know them, learning about their story, their background, their family, their history, their challenges, their high days, their low days, I learn all about that. At the end of that conversation, that person feels that I'm really interested in them. 2 weeks later, I contact them and say, hey, can I buy you a coffee? I've got a couple more questions for you. And by the way, everyone loves you. That podcast was awesome. They'll have a coffee with you. that coffee can lead to many, many different opportunities. A podcast is a great prospecting tool. Social media, and let's be very clear, I have not done social media well. I'm sitting there, I don't know, 130,000 people across various different channels. It's nothing compared to others. I'm a 54-year-old guy. I'm white. I'm kind of like, I'm not the category that people are that interested in. People say to me, "Oh, you look a lot younger." Thanks. Okay, doesn't take it away. I talk about subjects that aren't sexy. I refuse, and I've had social media agencies say to me, "Spence, can we do you with the Ferraris? Can we do you with the yachts?" And I'm like, "You will never do me with that." That was me once in my life, but that's not me now. Yeah, no, but young people need to be inspired, and and I'm like, it's not going to happen. It's just not. Okay, well, maybe we can't grow your audience. I'm like, the people that are attracted to that, I probably don't want in my audience. I want the people that are attracted to learning. So I haven't done social media well, but I know right this minute, if I posted out to my social media accounts a product or a service that solved a problem, that I could generate 40, 50, 60, 70 leads in the next hour from that audience. So if I wanted to monetize that part of it, I think I could do that relatively easily. I'm still on a learning journey myself. We're 300 episodes into the podcast. I'm still learning, and I know how to make money out of the podcast. I'm not Joe Rogan. Okay, I was definitely not Stephen yet, even though we've had some good times together, and I'm not some of the other big podcasts, and I would love to be. The documentary that we made was made by having a guest on the show that said, when I said to him, "I'm jealous you've got a TV show," he looked back at me and went, "Well, why haven't you got one?" And I was like, didn't even know where to start. So I want to get somewhere. I'm on a journey. I'm nowhere near it. I'd argue that I'm failing in many areas around it because I haven't mastered it. But I know for sure its value is immense, because if everyone's got 20,000 followers on social media, there's an audience of people that you can influence, an audience of people you can educate, and an audience of people that you can grow your business with.
The last question I wanted to ask you is, what advice would you give yourself at 20, 22 years old now, knowing what you know now?
There's a few pieces of advice. Don't get married.
Okay.
Till you're old enough to understand what that commitment is.
So that 35 plus is the clear rule.
35 plus. I even think some people, it's not, 35 is too young, but yeah.
Well, my dad got married at 45, so it's...
yeah, Dad's smart. So, don't get married young. So I wouldn't have got married. I'd have been much better with my money. I was making a lot of money when I was very young, and I was spending a lot of money as well. So I'd have been a lot smarter with my money. The money that I earned from the age of 24 years old to the money I earned when I was... Saying that though, all the money I earned between 24 and 30, I gave away in the divorce anyway. So it didn't matter what I did with it. It was I gave it away. But if I had not got married, then I'd have been able to use that money wiser. But I'd have been smarter with money, and I would have taken some time looking back to learn about my strengths and weaknesses, rather than being an arrogant, egotistical person like I was. I'd have been, I look back on that time in my life, and yeah, I was successful, but I don't think for a lot of people I was a very nice person, and that just I have shame around that.
Cool. Big thank you for your time today. Where's the best place people find out about yourself, your own podcast?
So the podcast is called Unscripted with Spencer Lodge, so you can find that. My name sounds like an old people's home, so it's not hard to find. And Spencer.Lodge is Insta and all the other stuff. But yeah, Spencer and Lodge, old people's homes. There's only one other Spencer Lodge that exists out there, and that's a hotel in Rotorua in New Zealand. And so if you land on that website, you'll realise that's not me.
Awesome. Big thank you for everyone listening to this. Enjoyed it. Make sure you go over and follow Spencer. Share the podcast. Hit like button if you're watching this on YouTube, and subscribe. And see you next episode soon. Thank you. That's really, really good.